welcome to Yaw's Prophetic Poetry with Stephen Workington and Jonathan Mish. Shalom.
Welcome to Shalom. Welcome to Yaw's Prophetic Poetry.
Yep.
And we're going to nail that intro one day. And today we're just going to start a 4-part series looking at the book of Ruth chapter by chapter and just going through what the story's about, and also taking a look at the names and any other words that kind of pop out that we like to kind of dive into and just figure them out. And yeah, so if there's anything else you want to add to that, Jonathan?
No, looking forward to diving in. It's something we both really want to do, so I'm excited about it.
Absolutely.
Excited for Ruth. It's a short little chapter, so probably going to be about 4 episodes. We'll do a chapter.
Yeah, a chapter each gives us a bit of time to we'll try to make this a bit more bite-sized for people. I know that we kind of tend to ramble on a little bit, so we're going to try and kind of keep it on point. And so with that being said, let's maybe start off with some prayer.
Yes.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, Yehovah, thank you for this beautiful day and bless your holy name, and please lead us in this reading of the book of Ruth, chapter 1, and please guide us in your truth, and please edify us and teach us and show us and help us edify others and help us to learn and be studied and be sure to prove. So with that being said, let's get started. In the name of Yeshua, amen.
Amen.
All right, so if you want to pull it up there on our trusty Bible app. And I'm going to be reading off of my tablet in front of me, so I'm not squinting at the camera here.
KJV? I'm
in the KJV, but that's I don't really have a good internet connection because I run on data off my phone. So this one's preloaded onto my app, so it's just what I'm reading with. But I mean, anyone can kind of follow along with whatever they want.
You want to just read through the chapter first, and then we'll go over it kind of verse by verse?
Yeah, I was just going to kind of read the chapter. Let's get ourselves fully immersed and get the idea of what's going on, who the people are, and then can just jump into it. So I'm just going to wet my whistle here real quick.
Good idea.
Yeah. It's another plus 30-degree day here, so we're heading into a heat wave. So I'm doing more heat training in the car here. All right. Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, all one word, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons Mahlon and Chilion, probably Chilion to be honest, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion, we'll call them, died also, both of them. And the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. So just Naomi was left and her 2 daughters-in-law. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord Jehovah had visited his people and given them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her. And they went on their way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. Jehovah deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord Jehovah grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have an husband. If I should say, I have hope, if I should have an husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would you tarry for them till they were grown? Would you stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieves me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, But Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people, and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest, will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord Jehovah do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. So they two went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them, and they said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord Jehovah has brought me home again empty. Why then call you me Naomi, seeing the Lord Jehovah has testified against me, and the Almighty has afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. All right, so that was a little bit of a read for me here. I haven't read out loud like that since, well, a little while ago with reading stories to the kids, so I should be practiced up by now. So this kind of just sets the stage that this is right after the great time of the judges, like Samson and that whole, the chapters before that. So this is kind of in a time where, they don't, I don't think they really have a king right now.
No.
And so this is kind of just these little pockets of places kind of ruled by judges at each, people like Job and Samson and things like that would run these cities. And so yeah, kind of sad that Naomi left with a husband and two sons, and then she came back with one daughter-in-law and no husband, no sons. So I can see why she didn't want to be called Naomi anymore once we dig into that name. But where would you like to start poking around in the lexicon and the definitions of some of these words there, Jonathan?
Let's look up the word judges.
Okay. Absolutely.
Oh, there we are. It's a verb.
It's a verb. Okay, for some reason my internet crashed on the tablet, so I'll just go off of yours. If that should be
To
okay. I can
judge,
read
to
that.
govern, to vindicate, punish.
Vindicate, yeah.
Or vindicate, punish. To act as a lawgiver or a judge or a governor of God, man.
To rule, govern, judge. To decide controversy of God or man. To execute judgment, discriminating of man. Vindicating, condemning and punishing. At theophonic advent for or a theophonic advent for final judgment. And if you scroll down a little more, let's see, to enter into controversy, plead, have controversy together, to be judged, judge opponent at law. And so it's kind of
I don't think there's a root word on that. I think
root
that
word
is
on
the,
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no, that is
primitive root. So so the
root,
judges that ruled.
So I'd like to point out here, like, lots of times people say, like, when we get into the laws and stuff and what Moses gave, people don't realize that these judges were in every town, and if there was a problem, you could not just go out and do whatever you wanted to whoever you wanted because you thought they broke a law. You actually had to go to a court system.
Yes.
And so these judges would sit at the gates
City
of
gates, yeah.
every city, yeah. And so I think that's just a really good thing to point out, and that we'll see that later on in the chapter as we go along. But yeah, you couldn't just go out and stone your kid because they were disobedient. You had to,
and also there was no decrees coming down from a king or a governor or a government system across the land. It was more of a town by town and city by city. I actually prefaced reading this this evening before coming on with the last chapter of the book before it, and it said there was a time in that land where there was no king, and every man just went after what he felt was right in his own eyes. So it was a town by town, citizen by citizen basis of what sense of right or wrong that you were doing, and most of these had, you know, a very strong tie to doing the law. But again, there's no one there forcing the people. It's, you know, it's probably good they had judges, because a lot of this, you know what happens when there's nobody
No
there
law,
to
law and
yeah,
order.
law and order. You have chaos and disorder, right? So
Yeah.
um, laws are good for a lot of different reasons. Some laws, we may not agree with, but laws are there for a reason. All right. I'd like to get into the names. Just a quick poke around the name of Bethlehem, Judah, and Moab, the two different country names, or city and country name. Because I find it was kind of there's a lot of poetry, and just I always find digging into the names kind of paints a bigger picture of what actually it puts more emotion and intent behind the story, I find. And there's a lot of little nuggets of things in there you kind of discover just from the name definitions.
What was the name? The
Uh,
Bethlehem, Judah is the first
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Okay.
Bethlehem, Judah, please. Since I don't have internet on this
Ooh, there's
tablet for
two
some
root
reason.
words from that.
Yeah,
So
so
it would
we
be
scroll,
Bethlehem and then probably Judah, probably
or Bethel, and then
Bethel. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay, I'll scroll down to the
so house
outline
of
of the Bible
bread,
use. House of bread,
a
food.
city in Judah, birthplace of David, a place in Zebulon. So, for those that don't know, Zebulon is one of the 12 tribes of Israel, and they each got appointed a different inheritance place to live. So, Zebulon, if I'm not mistaken, they were the more of the seafaring trader tribes, and think Gaza Strip. I believe that's where part of their inheritance was, the beach, as it
Mm-hmm.
were, and trading with merchant ships. So, that kind of location is the general what I think of when I hear Zebulon.
Do you want to go to the roots?
Yeah, sure. While we're here, let's look at the root words.
A part of speech.
Scroll down
Oh,
just a
there it
little
is.
more there, John. Yeah, there you go. House, dwelling, habitation, shelter, or abode of animals, human bodies, or it could refer to Sheol or of Sheol,
Oh,
which is the grave, which is pretty interesting. Um, I find we're going to find a lot of prophetic tie-ins to Yeshua, Jesus Christ, because
yes.
I felt for me this whole book of Ruth was a very big light bulb moment for understanding um, the whole story of redemption, being redeemed and bought and paid for a price and brought back into the family,
Yeah.
God's, Jehovah's family. And this book of Ruth has a lot of that in it that kind of shed a lot of light on it, on the idea for me. So of abode of light and darkness, of land of Ephraim, which is another name for the 10 northern tribes of
Northern tribes.
Israel. Yeah. Um, place, receptacle, home, house as containing a family, household, family, those belonging to the same household, family, descendants, descendants as organized body, household affairs, inwards as a metaphor or temple, and then even more as an adverb on the inside or within. So
Wow.
it's a lot of different, a lot of different things there, right? Um, definitely, definitely some food for thought. And let's go back to the other root word there, if we could. I
38.99.
read them earlier, but I can't remember exactly what this root word was. Bread, food, grain, bread, red corn, food in general. Okay, so it's the one root word is, could be the grave, but where the dead go to sleep. It's a house, it's a containing place of people, or it's a place of where people live. So there's a lot of it all kind of means a containment place of food, but it could be a place containing place of the dead. So very interesting, I find.
Oh, and
I
also
don't,
the bread, like Yeshua referenced himself,
the bread of life, yeah.
bread of
So
life, and
I think we're gonna see some more interesting things in the names here as we keep going. Let's look at the country of Moab. What
oh, it
does
can also
Moab?
meet just up here quickly. It shows
Oh,
bread, food, 21 times, meat 18 times,
shewbread,
show bread,
showbread, yeah.
which is in the tabernacle or the temple,
Tabernacle,
but tabernacle at this time.
yeah,
Loaves, showbread with showbread, vindicate. Interesting showbread, like eat fast, fruit, provision, one time. Interesting. It's crazy how that
yes,
one word can be, used in so many different ways.
yeah,
And then there's even a root word off of that one. Shall we go there?
yeah. Just trying to keep time as a factor, but I
Same.
always like to dive in. To fight, do battle, make war. To fight, do battle. To engage in battle, wage war. To eat, uses food. Huh. That's a lot of different things packed into this name here.
Oh
Um,
man.
in here, it was just little town of Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so it's a lot of different things behind that name. Now let's take a look at just simple little old Moab. What does that?
Country of Moab.
There we go.
H1.
Oh, that's the root word.
Yeah, but
Yes,
still
yeah,
the very first one.
the very first one that they recorded. Um,
Okay, well, we're down here.
well, it's
Moab.
interesting. It's of his father.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, a son of Lot by his eldest daughter, which we can get into that another episode. We were just talking about that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
The nation descended from the son of Lot, the land inhabited by the descendants of the son of Lot. So it's of his father, referring to Lot. It seems to be the biggest definition of that.
Also
Hmm.
his territory and
And
descendants.
descendants.
Okay. Okay, I want to look at this root word
Yes,
of
I
her
didn't
of mother.
from
Oh,
her mother's father.
yeah.
Hmm.
All right.
Wow, look at all that. Father of an individual, of God as father of his people, head or founder of a household, group, family, or clan, ancestor, grandfather, forefathers of person, of people, originator or patron of a class, profession, or art, of producer, generator of benevolence and protection, term of respect and honor, ruler or chief. And if you scroll down, is there any more?
No, that was it.
No, that's it. Wow. Okay. So let's see. I always find the root words so fascinating that okay, we're going to take this word and we're going to build this other word off of that. It's always like tied to it somehow.
Well, it's interesting that it's H1 and the father of
Yes, that did strike my mind as being
God as the
that's
father of his people.
yeah. So it's as we keep reading through this book of Ruth, we're going to see that it's quite it's all tying in together. We'll see. Hopefully, at the end, we can kind of nail all these points together, and hopefully, you, the viewer, can see it as well. And why I get excited about this book, even though it seems, just kind of a basic story, but it's very short, but very pivotal for me. Um, Sons to
Anything else?
no, I think that was it. I think the time we allotted ourselves, I think for the most part, we're just gonna
Keep
try
going
to
on
look
these
at
names.
on the names because if you go to verse 2, the name of the man was uh, Eli Melech. I'm sure I'm just slaughtering that name, but Elimelech is probably how it's
Yeah.
pronounced.
See if it'll
Elim
say it here.
it might not let us.
No, it's not.
Might get a copyright on you.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. But all right, let's scroll down. I'm interested to see what this one is. So my God is King is what his name is. So we're seeing a lot of tie-ins to God the Father, God the King, in the time of the judges. So yeah, Naomi's husband. God is King. Okay, is there a root? The root words for
Yeah,
that?
there is.
I'm assuming that it's just. Well, I know Melech is King, and Eli or El is God or
Is
Elohim.
God. Yeah.
But let's take a quick poke in there just to make sure that's um, Ale. Yeah, God, godlike one, mighty men, men of rank, mighty heroes, angels, God, false God, demons, things of that nature. God, the one true God, Yehovah, mighty things in nature, strength, power. So
Yeah,
that's
so
the
that's Elohim, right? So,
yeah.
and if you
Yeah,
look at the
this should be the singular. Elohim
yeah.
is
Yeah,
plural. Then
yes.
there's Eloach and Eloah and all the other ones. My kids like hitting a little speaker, and I get to hear all these pronunciations, and then I get to do a horrible mistranslation of them when I try to say them.
Malakak
Um,
King.
King.
Hmm.
So yeah, God is King.
Royal.
So man, my tablet is totally frozen here. I need to get some better technology. And then let's go into the name of his wife, because this is something that I discovered right before Jonathan and I got on here, and it got us a little bit like it's a pretty cool thing that we found in her name. So I'm really excited to showcase this one. Naomi equals my delight, wife of uh, Elimelech, mother of Mahlon and Chilion, and mother-in-law of Ruth and Orpah. But it really is cool when you go into the root of her name. And something very, very interesting that we found was kindness, pleasantness, delightfulness, beauty, favor, which is, kind of like some,
Which is Grace.
grace. Delightfulness, symbolic name of one of two staves. Now, a stave is a staff, or think of like a fighting stick or the staff that they would walk with.
Mm-hmm.
And that is referenced somewhere else, and it's in Ezekiel 37, starts at verse 15, and it's the prophecy of the two sticks being put into one hand and joined back together, and it's the house of Ephraim and the house of Judah.
Mm.
And yeah, so this is very interesting because Yeshua, Jesus, came from Naomi, but you're going to see how he came from Naomi, and he's of the house of Judah. And yeah, there's just a lot of really cool stuff in these names that we're excited to share with you guys. So Naomi's is a delightful one. She's beauty, she's grace, she's Miss United States. Just to play on that beauty pageant song. But she's the symbolic name of one of two staves. So I thought that was, pardon me, I got a mosquito trying to bite my nose. And it's, right when I read that, I was like, that's in Ezekiel 37. And we can jump over there, or we can leave that up to you, the viewer, to jump over there and read that. But I know we're kind of trying to
Oh,
keep this time.
let's jump over there. I'll put it
Let's
up on
jump
another
over
tab.
there. It's going to go for 3 hours again. Now we're going to try and keep it short, but 40 minutes to an hour short.
And we are going to Isaiah.
Ezekiel.
Oh yeah, Ezekiel.
Ezekiel 37 over. Yeah.
Back. That didn't work. Ah, my other mouse died on me, and this one double clicks on me all the time. So
So you're
it's
gonna
gonna be a
go.
load of problems
Yeah,
today.
there you go.
What?
37.
37.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Jonathan's computer decided to play hooky for a while there and
Yep.
take off, and yeah, it's almost like There's
Okay.
someone or something not wanting us to read our Bibles, but we're going to keep going anyway.
Yep. What are we at? What
Okay.
verse?
Let's go. I think it starts in verse 15. If my memory serves me right. I mean,
Yeah. Here we are.
okay. The word of Jehovah came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it, for Judah and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it, for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions. And join them to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by this? So will you not show us what this means? And he says, Say unto them, thus says the Lord Jehovah, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand before their eyes. And say unto them, thus says the Lord Jehovah Elohim, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. And if you just keep going down a bit more, this is where it gets, the real point of the prophecy is, and David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they all shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob, my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. And it just keeps going on and on and on. We have time, we can read it. Let's read them. Why not? I hate to walk away from reading a whole passage. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord Jehovah, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So,
Everlasting covenant.
and I find it so cool too that Ruth even says this to Naomi, like, your people will be my people, and your God shall be my God. And we see this all throughout. There's I was just listening to a Torah portion reading today while I was working, and it was Caleb was actually an Edomite. Caleb became king, and took the land with Joshua. So Joshua was a genetic, from the Israelite tribes, born and raised and born into that bloodline. And Caleb wasn't, but he adopted the ways, even though he was an Edomite, and he became their king, right? So Yehovah became his God, and the Israelites became his people.
Grafted
So
in.
grafted in. So we see being grafted in all throughout the Old Testament, and it's really exciting things. And I could go on and on about that, but let's jump back to Ruth chapter 1, and let's get into some more of these names.
We're just let you know we're coming up to the 6-minute mark here. We're going to reset.
Okay, that's okay. Well, we'll do some more names, and then we'll do a little chop break, and you can edit it together, and we'll be good to go. So we're working on getting some new streaming software.
So Naomi, I guess just quickly is pretty much the name means to stick.
Yeah, it's symbolic of the two sticks.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the King of Kings from the tribe of Judah, Yeshua HaMashiach, or Jesus Christ the Messiah, comes from this lineage here, as we find out. Because basically King David comes from this lineage. I think 2 generations or 3 generations past this. So very, very cool stuff about being grafted in.
So the
Let's go to
son's
Ruth chapter
names.
1. The sons' names. All right. So the 2 sons, Malon and Chilion. I'm gonna call him Chilion because it reminds me of
Everybody likes a
dinner
good
time.
chili.
Dinner time in the winter. Hey, chili's on. So it gets me running.
Yeah,
Okay.
you eat too much, that's what happens.
Well, that's right. Well, as we see here too, ironically enough, this Malon's name equals sick. It means to be sick. Um, it's kind of interesting that you name your kid sick or illness and he dies. So uh, it's prophetic, and that's what he did, right? He and doesn't really tell us how he died, but it doesn't seem that he was killed. So I can only, come to the conclusion that he probably got sick and died. So
The
to
root
be,
word.
the root word to be or become weak, or be or become sick, be or become diseased, be or become grieved, to be or be become sorry, to be weak, be sick, to be or become weak, feel weak, to become sick, become ill, to entreat, pray, or beg, to make oneself sick, to be made sick, to be tired, to be made weak, become weak, to make oneself sick, to make sore, to make sick, to show signs of sickness, become sick. I think it's really driving home.
Yeah.
It's
I
you're sick
think we're
and to be
getting it.
sad. I think we're getting. I think we're getting the idea here that
Mm.
interesting that yeah. So let's
You
do a.
wonder if they when they know what that name meant,
Well, I find it's just
or is
interesting that biblically speaking, the names kind of play out how their life is or becomes, or we see they get blessed based off of what their names are, like Levi, Simeon, and Reuben, and
yeah.
Joseph, and all that kind of thing. And yeah, it's almost, well, maybe Yehovah was like, yeah, well, this is all planned by him. He's written the story from the beginning, so it's just another little icing on the cake to put meanings on all these names, just to really drive home the point that he has this all planned out. So Chilion is pining, as in, homesick, you're pining for home. Um, he's the son of Elimelech and Naomi, and the deceased husband of Ruth, or maybe deceased husband of Orpah. They don't really know who is who, because it doesn't, I guess, matter, because both of them died childless without raising up seed
Yeah.
to carry on the family name, which is a very big deal in their entire um, culture, if you want to call it culture.
Root word.
Mm. Completion, destruction, consumption, annihilation. Oh, these are not good sounding words. Failing or pining. So we got the 2 sons that moved to another country and they died childless without raising up an inheritance, and their names were, nothing good. Nothing good in those names. So
I'm excited because I really want to go through all these, write out these names and see what they say as a story.
yeah,
You
and
see,
the
so
places where they go to
yeah,
all have name meanings too,
yes.
as we saw with Moab and Bethlehem, Judah, which was very interesting. Um, all right, well, let's look at the daughters now. We'll start with Orpah in verse 4, and then follow that up with the name of Ruth.
Oprah, verse 4.
Verse 4, or Orpah. I know I kept saying Oprah earlier. I was like, oh,
Oprah,
yeah,
Oprah,
Orpah.
Orpah.
All right.
There's money. Oprah. Hmm. You see it there?
Yeah. So Orpah is a gazelle, which is like a very springy leg, light deer, as
Mm-hmm.
it were. And I just realized I don't have my ringer turned down on my phone. That would just be horrendous to have someone call me at this time, which they almost never do, but it's better safe than sorry. All right, let's go for the root word there, Jonathan.
All right.
From H6203. Neck, back of the neck, back of fleeing foe of apostasy, figuratively used, or stiff of neck, obstinate. Which is kind of interesting because she ended up leaving her mother-in-law after saying that she was going
She
to come
went
with her.
back.
She went back at the very first, Naomi was like, no, don't come with me. Orpah's like, I'm going to come with you. Naomi, no, really, you don't have to. Okay. I'm going to go back to my people and my gods and completely, because I'm sure, when they get married to their husbands that were not of Moab, they probably had to take on the husband's customs, and that was probably, following laws and statutes and ordinances of Yehovah, the Israelite covenant, law behavior.
Okay, let's we'll start up a new one here.
Okay, we're going to look into the name Ruth next. What does Ruth mean? Friendship. Look at that. Daughter-in-law of Naomi, wife of Boaz, and great-grand. Oh, spoiler alert! Gee, I can't believe this. They just gave us the spoiler there. So those of you that hadn't read the book of Ruth, sorry. Those that have, this should make you upset like it does me. That's it. For those that haven't read, and great-great-grandmother of David. Come on, but I already said that, so I'm at fault for that too. Let's go to the root word. Let's see here. I don't really watch a lot of movies anymore, so this is kind of my movies. So it's a female companion, a mate, or a neighbor woman. So it's interesting. Friend, neighbor. Who's my neighbor? Love your neighbor as yourself. And no greater love has anyone that lays down their life for their friend. Again, there's a lot of biblical references to both neighbor and mate or friend. So yeah, I find that all their names really, really fit their characters really well.
Yeah.
Something I noticed with naming my own children, that put a lot of emphasis in naming them a specific name, and lo and behold, they grow into this person that fits their description of the name to a T. So just that's when we kind of Jonathan and I have been kind of interested in the names, especially in the Bible and in the scriptures, because they tend to tell a story, and then the names of the places too all have reasons behind them. And yes, and then once you start looking at them in the long line history of getting from creation to Messiah coming, death, resurrection, and going to be the high priest in the temple for us in heaven, and leading up to the day of the Lord returning, then there's a lot of importance in these names. So, and we just felt it drew us closer into the story and gave us some more bigger appreciation for the storytelling.
Yep.
Okay.
Roots.
So root. Which word was
There's
that?
two, we got two more roots.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not notice that. That's for Ruth.
Pasture.
To pasture, tend, graze, feed, to tend, pasture, to shepherd, of ruler, teacher, of people as flock, shepherd, herdsman, to feed, graze, of cows, sheep, of idolater, Israel as flock, shepherd, shepherdess, to associate with, be a friend of, meaning probable, to associate with, to be companions, to be a special friend. So we're seeing a lot more descriptors here kind of tying in, the Messiah and being more of a prophetic. The book of Ruth to me is a book of prophecy as well as a book of understanding for redemption. But the more I did not go into these root words earlier, so I'm finding even more. It could also mean broken. Yeah, seeing in there. Okay, what's the other root word? There's another root in there as well.
Reha.
Friend, companion, fellow, another person, friend, intimate, friend, fellow citizen, another person in the weaker sense, other, another. So we have
Who's the weaker ones?
mm,
The ones that get grafted in.
that's right. That very, very, very good point, Jonathan. Speaking of being grafted in, it's, it was the the Israelites that weren't listening to the covenant. They got their branches removed, and us, quote unquote, Gentiles, or those of the nations, got given a chance to be grafted in. We are the weaker ones. That's
Yes.
why Yeshua is talking, and this woman comes up to him. I cannot remember. I'll have to look this up. But I read it just the other day. And the Sumerian woman that says, "Please, my daughter is sick, lying in her bed, been sick a long time." And Yeshua tells her, like, "Why are you speaking like basically? It's not fit to give food to the dogs until I fed those at the table first." And she said, "Yes, I know, but even the dogs eat from the crumbs of the table."
Yes.
And so he was astounded that, even though he told her, "Listen, I'm not here." As it says in, like I mentioned before, Matthew 15:24, he's come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's who he came for. That's who all his disciples went to go talk to first, and was to draw in all those that got broken off from the olive tree. And then it got opened up to the Gentiles and everyone else, quote unquote,
All the
us, right?
nations.
All the nations. So very, very interesting to find all these little tidbits just in the name of this short little named character, short little book. But
Another root
yes,
word.
another Ruth word.
Another Ruth word.
uh,
Raha. Raha.
Ra.
Raha.
Oh, we just read this.
Oh
We
yeah,
just
we
read
did.
this one.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Oh,
there we
I
go.
wonder why I would do that.
So who's
Feed
the
the
good shepherd
flock.
who feeds his flock? It's Yeshua. Um, So yeah, so quite interesting, and that's pretty much, I believe, all. Oh, wait, we have to go down to verse 20 and see Naomi's name, what it got turned into, what she decided to be called after
That's right. That's
losing
right.
her husband and her sons, and she returned only with one daughter-in-law of the Moabites, which was Ruth,
Yay.
since Orpah was apostate and fled from her, such as her name was. And even though her husband died, he had a good name, which was God is King, which I think is very cool, because from from that lineage, the great King, the Messiah, did come. So as we saw in that spoiler alert, Naomi is the um, or was it Ruth, is the great great grandmother of King David. But yeah, so verse 20, there it is right there.
Yeah, there it is.
And we're going to look at the name Mara, which is interesting because I live not too far from a lake called Mara, and it's a very popular place. But now I know it means bitter. Yes, bitterness. Sorry, a spoiler that I read that earlier. Boom. That's right. I read this stuff before I go on here sometimes. A name that Naomi called herself due to her calamities, but I did not check the root word, I do not believe, because I was trying to leave some surprise even for myself in these little discoveries. Bitter, bitterness of water or food, of harlot's end of wickedness, of pain, bitterly. Um, Again, finding a little bit of tie-in to lots of talk about the children of Israel playing the harlot, and it would be the end of them. The wickedness would
Mm-hmm.
end them, and yeah, of pain bitterly. So I just found it interesting that somehow harlotry is tied into that bitterness, and you know, Naomi was definitely not a harlot from anything we see. She was seemed like a pretty righteous woman, and went through a lot of things, and you know, came home and doesn't have a man or children to, pass on the family lineage, as it were. And that's probably one of the worst things once you kind of dive into reading about these people that lived and their history. And how their lives were, that not having someone to pass on that inheritance to was like a, to be alive to see that not come to fruition was worse than going to Sheol, right? It was because at least if you went to Sheol, you would be asleep, asleep, dead in sleep, and you wouldn't see that you had no inheritance to pass on. But to be alive and see that was probably a pretty emotional thing.
Yeah,
Um, but as we see, we're going to read on the next episode. It gets better,
it
and
does.
I'm really excited to go more on that. Is there any other words in here that we're kind of poking out to you, Jonathan?
Uh,
That, I mean, for the most part, it's pretty straightforward.
yeah, it was more so. Um,
Just setting the pace for what's happening, and the fact
yeah,
that there's a lot of really really cool things with these names. The place that they left and returned to. Um, and it's funny because they come back 10 years later, and it's not Bethlehem, Judah anymore. Now it's just Bethlehem.
yeah,
Did you notice that as well?
yes,
So when they come back, there is no Judah tied to it anymore. But
which is interesting.
which is very interesting because, um, as we saw, Bethlehem also can mean, like the grave or a container for housing people, whether they're alive or dead. That all depends on the usage, and it was tied to Judah. But when she returned, Judah wasn't there anymore. So I make of that what you will. I'm still kind of working out what that possibility of that could mean, but I just noticed that, a lot of times in just a very basic, I call it very basic, version of the Bible that we all have, the 66 books, because there are a lot of other books that were removed that are kept out, for various reasons that, I'm starting to read more and more of, and it gives extra commentary to these things. But as of right now, we're just going to stick with just these books currently, when we're talking about this, and then we're going to eventually branch off into those other ones. But we really, really want to give people a good, I mean, everything's here in the basic version of the Bible that I call it, the scriptures. And once we kind of go through all of that, then we can start adding the other layers to it. But I find that there's a lot of extra commentary that we don't get, in here. So we don't know why now it's called Bethlehem instead of Bethlehem, Judah. But something over that 10-year period, happened. So
Yeah,
just food for thought, everybody. There's names have a meaning, and they're given for a specific reason, and sometimes we're not told why it's changed. And before we had the Strong's Concordance and the lexicons, unless they told us why they named a place a certain place or named a person a certain name, we had no idea what their names meant. Well, I mean, us English speakers,
yeah,
maybe not, but
yeah. Maybe
those
we'll
that were
have
learned,
to shoot that
yeah.
in the Heme Gordon one of these days. See if we can
Hmm.
get see
Help
if
us.
he understands that one. There might be other people out there. It would be nice to know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I do think it's a pretty um major change for sure. There's a reason why that would have changed like that. So
yeah.
I was
I
just
mean, it,
looking
it
at
could have been.
I was
Oh,
just
sorry.
looking
Go
at
ahead.
the end of the book, the Genesis to maps, and I
Yeah,
was just looking at the maps here, and Moab is kind of on the bottom uh
of the by the Dead Sea there
west,
on the east,
yeah,
or is
or
it
on the or yeah,
in the east of,
on the
the Dead
east
Sea
of
there?
the
Yeah,
Dead Sea there. So they either had to walk up around through Reuben and then through Benjamin, then down to Bethlehem, or they came up through Eden. I'm not
yeah.
sure, but it's just interesting, just the layout and the
Well, I do remember the old movie Ruth. Back, when I was a kid, my mom would watch a lot. My parents would watch a lot of these. There was like the Ten Commandments, the Moses with, Charlton Heston,
Mhm.
and the Judah Ben Hur movies, and then there was the movie of Ruth, and um, it was, I do remember a lot of that movie when I read this, so it does help me to have some imagery there, whether or not how much of it was accurate, but it does give me a little bit of a picture in my mind. So that's another really cool thing I like about reading this book, is that I can kind of have a more of a picture in my head. And then
Yeah,
once I've read all these names and things, and as we go into it and all the reasons why they do certain things, it's really cool. I can't wait.
yeah.
So with that, I think
That's it for tonight.
that's a wrap. Yeah. So thank
And if
you
you
for all that,
guys
that stuck it out. And
see anything that pops out to you guys, please leave some comments on YouTube or email, either or,
yes,
because we might miss some good tidbits here, some good nuggets, as some people like to say.
yeah. Or sometimes we say things that spark this, the sequence of words and how we
Oh
said
yeah,
them might have
yeah.
sparked something in your brain, because that happens to us all the time. It's like,
I
wait a
think
minute,
that
like,
what's really exciting is Naomi. I think that's a really interesting one with this
yeah,
two sticks aspect, because that's a huge player throughout the rest. How
yes,
prophecy, how this one nation splits into two, and the whole
yeah,
prophecy of how the two will come back, and we're part of that too.
yes,
Um, and that's a really exciting, and it's way back here.
yeah.
It's pretty
Right, way
cool.
back in the early portions. I mean, it's right after you get Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, then Ruth, and then here comes First, Second Samuel, First, Second Kings, Chronicles. So we got a long way to go before King David even shows up, kills Goliath, takes the
Yeah,
throne. Some 20-something years after that, roughly, with King Saul chasing him. And then King Solomon coming in and making that second or that the very first temple. There's a tabernacle, then the temple, then second temple, and then we're waiting for that third temple to arrive one day. So we're excited for that. But this is, like Jonathan said, way back, and you know here it is, even in their names and how the story plays out. There's telling you what's going to happen all the way back here.
yeah,
So you got to read that front of the book to get the back of the book to make any sense,
yeah.
and it's all interconnected. So um, do not hesitate. Pretty much, I look at almost any name or word now and like just really dig into it, and then try to um, figure out, it just adds more to the story. Um,
Hmm.
and you know that's pretty much it that I have for now. I know we're trying to keep it short, trying to keep it concise, and keep it entertaining for you guys a little bit, and watch me sweat here as I read, and get excited as we get excited. And I try not to read ahead, so I'm just as surprised as you guys, but I can't help it a lot of the times.
Yeah, no,
So
no.
um,
I went through all the book there myself too, and it's good. I'm excited to dive into deeper into these things because
yeah,
and anyways, that's I guess that's it for tonight. We'll say shalom to everybody, and
shalom,
may
and
God bless you and keep you.
yeah, Yehovah bless you, as I say to my children every night, and if my kids say back to me, Yehovah bless you, and put a little hand out, Yehovah bless you, and you guys have a great night, and we'll see you on the next chapter of Ruth.
Sounds good. Bye.
Shalom.